It's November 16th. I'm Ezra Levant, and you're watching Battleground. I don't have the confidence monitor here, Phil. Welcome back, guys. Sorry for the technical hiccup. It's Ezra Levant here, and we're having some technical hiccups. I am the Rebel Commander of TheRebel.media. Every Friday, I like to sit down here and kibitz a bit. We call it Super Chat. That is what YouTube Google calls it. It's really just a live chat, but if you want to make it super, you can by chipping in a few bucks. That makes your comment brightly highlighted. If it's enough, like $5 or so, it's appended to the top of the box there for a period of time. And the reason it's so great, in my view, is that YouTube actually gives us 70% of that money, which is important because YouTube demonetizes conservative websites. I mean, one of the people say, well, who did you pattern the Rebel after? And they're surprised when I tell them that when we launched the Rebel, our main role model was not a conservative site, but rather was the Young Turks. Do you know who I'm talking about? Cenk Uygur and I can't remember his sidekick. And they just had a cheap and cheerful, low-budget studio in some warehouse near LA or something, and it was YouTube-based. And I said, that's the model for us. And they were very quick to 1 million subscribers and then many more, and they made money that way. We said, well, let's copy them, and it worked until Donald Trump was elected, after which time Google, YouTube, and the other social media platforms said, whoa, how did Trump get elected? Well, people using social media, let us therefore crack down on them. And so we did great in November 2016, December 2016, January 2017, and then they dropped the hammer. And even though our views were extremely strong, like we were booming then, immediately our revenues were cut by 85%. And we thought, what's going on? Is there some problem here? We're same talent, same everything, huge view counts. YouTube just cut us down, and you've heard the story because it's happened to everyone. And to this day, our revenues are a fraction, a shadow of a fraction of a part of a half of a quarter of what they were before. And often none of our vids are monetized at all if they have bad words in the headline, like Trudeau, feminism, and terrorists. Those are the three main key words that have our videos demonetized. And by that I mean they won't even let advertisers put an ad on it. And even the fact that only 196 people are watching this broadcast when we have 1.1 million subscribers, I think that tells you something too, that YouTube throttles our traffic. I'm not bitching, I'm not whining, I'm just telling you, just explaining why Super Chat is a bit of a reprieve. I'm sure they'll correct that later. I've heard stories of YouTube after a Super Chat, if they later say, well, we don't like the content of it, I hear they literally seize the funds. I've heard that happen. I haven't seen proof of it. We had 3 meetings with YouTube and Google about this. By the way, this was not just our speculation. We met in person with them in Toronto, and we met by video link with them in 2 other cities. And they say, yeah, that's what we do. They don't care. Well, why would they care? I see Super Chat already. Thank you very much. Jane Bray, $2 says, God bless Rebel Media. Well, I appreciate that. Big Hair chips in £3. Do you think Theresa May will resign? Well, let me ask you, our UK viewers, for that. I mean, it's just going so quickly there. We have a funny little video. Can we play? Do we have the Theresa May hair on fire video? It's just she's having cabinet ministers resign almost hourly. What an absolute disaster. She never really had a charismatic power or a deep love amongst the British people, or even her own party, I put it to you. And her handling of Brexit has been an utter disaster. We have a UK team. Jack Buckby is on the ground out there, and he's done a lot of videos on Brexit. This is just a fun found video from social media. It doesn't even really say anything. It's just fun to look at. Take a look.
Today, as we face this critical election for our country, I launch my manifesto for Britain's future. A manifesto to see us through Brexit and beyond. A plan for a stronger, fairer, more prosperous Britain.
You know, it doesn't even make any sense. It's just sort of funny. You got to admit, that's a little bit funny. I don't know the latest up to the minute. I mean, it's 12:05 Eastern time here in Toronto. The UK would be just after 5 p.m. there, so I haven't been checking my social media for a few hours, so God only knows how bad it is. But it's a disaster. I do, of course, blame Theresa May for slow walking and pettifogging and her excuseology. I blame her for not getting the Brexit done. It's been 2 years. But I also blame her for putting the United Kingdom at tremendous risk of being handed over to Jeremy Corbyn, who, whatever you say about Theresa May, she is not a terrorist-loving communist, which I think is a technically accurate appellation for Jeremy Corbyn. Can we get the picture of Corbyn standing next to the Hezbollah flag? You know, I don't throw the word communist around as an insult because I don't want it to be profaned by overuse. Sometimes you have to keep a knife sharp and only use it occasionally. You don't want to dull it. And I think the word communist is one such word. So some people just call everyone a communist. I very rarely call people a communist unless they truly are. And there are some people who embrace that. I don't think that Bernie Sanders is a communist. He's a socialist. Some people would haggle over the difference, but I think there is one. I think, but check this out. This is an image of Jeremy Corbyn proudly standing. That is the flag of the terrorist group Hezbollah. In fact, you can see right next to his ear there, you can see the handle and the barrel of a submachine gun, of an assault rifle. I think that might be an AK-47. That is the terrorist flag. He proudly, and that's the least of it. I mean, that's just standing next to a symbol of murder. He actually laid a wreath for Hamas terrorists. Laid a wreath for them. Of course, he's friendly with the IRA. I mean, that goes without saying. So yeah, it's not just that Theresa May has failed to follow through with the democratic promise of the Brexit vote. It's not just that she's failed to negotiate the proper terms of secession with the European Union, but because of her failures and her trickery, she has obviously demoralized her own party and her base, and she has given great strength to the cataclysmic threat of Jeremy Corbyn as Prime Minister, and God forbid that happens. Jane Bray, I think I already read hers. God bless Rebel Media. Thank you very much for that. Just in Time says, I haven't had a battleground notification in months. I jump on based on the timing of the show. That's with the notification bell enabled. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, I'm not saying I'm the most scintillating commentator on the entire internet. And 12 noon Eastern time might not be the best time for people to tune in. I mean, could be, I have no idea. It's just when I'm available. But don't tell me that only 248 out of 1.1 million people even click on it. I just know for a fact that we're being throttled. And so the purpose of YouTube in our company these days is just to put stuff up, just to show people, fly the flag, build up a brand, maybe pull people into the Rebel proper. But yeah, it's certainly not a way to make money. So what are we going to do today? Well, I mean, I have some videos here, but I think I'm going to do really an Ask Me Anything kind of chat. And Jane Bray chips in, watch From the Ground Up Doc. Can we put that website on the screen? FromTheGroundUpDoc.com. And by the way, I love the super chats because they stand out so brightly there. So I see them out of the corner of my eye and I immediately read them. Oh, and Jane Bray also says, let's have a tea party. Yeah, well, the tea party, put up FromTheGroundUpDoc.com on the screen. That is a documentary about the American Tea Party. And as you know, I'm based here in Canada. The Tea Party was of great interest to me. It was the first fight back. And let's play the trailer of the Ground Up doc. It might be Vimeo if you can get that up. So this was brought to my attention. I thought, all right, there's not a lot of conservative filmmakers out there. I mean, you can really count them on one hand. There's Fela McAleer and Anne, his wife. They're great. They did the Gosnell movie. They did Frack Nation. Great movie. Opened my eyes to fracking. That's really what put me on the truth of that. Mel Gibson, I think, is a conservative filmmaker. Clint Eastwood. Those guys are huge. Then there's that fella, I just forgotten his name. He does sort of some Christian vids, but he doesn't really. He used to be with Survivor, I think. I can't remember his name right now. They're really, and I think I've just listed them all. So when I saw that there was this conservative movie, I thought, I got to take a look at it. And when I learned that Kelsey Grammer from Frasier was the narrator, I thought, oh, okay, so the production quality is going to be there. They got a serious talent. And I love his voice. Here, are we ready with the trailer? All right, go ahead.
It is time to check and reverse the growth of government, which shows signs of having grown beyond the consent of the governed.
We're thinking of having a Chicago Tea Party in July. All you capitalists that want to show up to Lake Michigan, I'm going to start organizing.
Republicans had lost 60 of their 238 seats in the House. In the Senate, Republicans had dropped from 55 seats to 41. Time magazine declared the Republican Party leaderless, rudderless, all but dead.
The grievances of the Tea Party originated with TARP. That horrified us, that D.C. would borrow money, hundreds of billions of dollars, and just send it right to Wall Street.
I had back-to-back 1,200 people, type meetings. I've never seen anything before or after that in those numbers.
I have a message from the Tea Party. A message that is loud and clear and does not mince words. We've come to take our government back.
I am just your average, everyday mom, just like the rest of you.
I didn't get help from the national. I didn't get help from the state. I didn't get help from the county.
We call it AstroTurf. It's not really a grassroots movement.
Well, with all due respect, it's not the Kennedy seat, and it's not the Democrat seat, it's the people's seat.
Well, this is about hating a black man in the White House. This is racism straight up.
American people are waking up, and if you vote yes, we're going to vote no come next re-election.
I want to know, why are you people ignoring his birth certificate?
The NRCC really had a mixed bag of recruits to go to war with in November. It was these candidates they recruited, but also these upstart primary candidates who won unexpectedly.
I'm not a witch.
They literally are coming into the headquarters saying, I'm doing this for America. This is my cause. I want to help you in whatever way I can.
This was just going to be a wave unlike anything we'd ever witnessed before.
Citizen legislators, outsider candidates, and establishment Republicans who embraced the core values of the Tea Party ended their campaigns in triumph.
Watch this. When I take away how we began the night to where we are now, there is a bloodbath going on right out here in the industrial heartland of America.
Well, what do you think of that? What do you think of that? I was just pleased to see any documentary from our side of the aisle, aren't you? So yeah, I saw that. I interviewed the filmmaker. I thought it was great. Thanks for the question. I see another super chat from D. Tyler Dunbrack, who says, what do you think of global TV spinning the racial profiling angle on the Marissa Chen investigation? Well, listen, I don't think that they were motivated by malice or bias or bigotry. I think they, we don't know yet all of the details, all of the information about how they found the suspect. Just for those who don't know what I'm talking about, maybe we can get an image of Marissa Chen and her accused murderer on the screen. Marissa Chen is a young Chinese-Canadian girl from the city of Burnaby, BC. And last year, she was found murdered, and I understand she was raped before she was murdered in a park in Burnaby, and it became one of the largest police operations in that city's history. They put dozens of officers on the case. They reviewed countless hours of closed-circuit TV footage. I think they interviewed over 1,000 witnesses. And in the end, they charged one of Trudeau's Syrian migrants that he fast-tracked to Canada from Syria without vetting. And not only that, but he was a single military-aged man. That's him there, Ibrahim Ali, looking just dashing, doesn't he? Trudeau said he would not bring in young single men from Syria, but he did, and now one of them is accused of rape. Can we get a picture of Marissa Chen, please? And look, I don't know how police found him. There's Marissa Chen, just 13. Let me read the caption. There is seen in a previously unreleased image that was shared by police. So yeah, she was raped and murdered in the park across from her street. Look, the trial has not happened yet. I don't know. I mean, obviously, if you're accusing police of racial profiling, you're trying to put the police on the back foot. That may sell well with the media that's Islamophilic and cop-phobic, but I think most people in Canada are just glad a suspect has been arrested and look forward to the trial of the facts and the law. And if they got him, I think people would say whatever the police did, however they found him, if he's guilty, that's good. If we caught the guy because of that. If you're looking for patterns sometimes indicate race or gender. Let's take it away from race for a second. It is a pattern that most crimes are committed by men, not women. You could say that's sexist, but that's a fact. It's also a fact that most victims of crime are men and not women. That's a fact too. So I'm not familiar with the particular allegations of racial bias there, but I really don't care. Another super chat by Jane Bray. What do you think about the journalists suing Andrew Scheer? I got to tell you, I don't know what you mean. I know that, can we put up the image of Jerry Diaz and Unifor and their little meme saying they're the resistance to Andrew Scheer? I think, Jane, what you might mean, if I understand you right, is that a union called Unifor, which is a large, generally private sector union in Canada, which represents more than 10,000 people in the media. And you might say, well, are there even 10,000 people in the media? Most of them are in like film and TV and stuff, or film. But they do represent Global TV and the Toronto Star and the Globe and Mail, for example. So they put together this image here, the resistance. Welcome to Andrew Scheer's worst nightmare. And they're all looking very mad. And that guy in the middle, his name is Jerry Diaz, and he's the president of the union called Unifor. And for our foreign viewers or Canadians who don't know who Andrew Scheer is, he's the leader of Canada's Conservative Party. He's the leader of the opposition here. I have no problem with someone saying they're the resistance to Andrew Scheer or anyone else, but when that is a labor union of journalists, that's a problem. Think about it. If you're a journalist and you're going on TV every day and saying, I am reporting the straight facts to you, and I'm going to be fair and objective, and I'm going to tell you what the facts are, and you can take it to the bank. But then you are taking your union dues and spending it on a campaign against Andrew Scheer, like literally naming the man and saying we're against him, we will resist him. How can you do both things? How can you be Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? How can you say, oh, for the 5 minutes a night when I tell you the bad news about Andrew Scheer, I swear to God, guys, I'm being totally objective, totally fair, I don't have any bias in me, guys. No, Andrew Scheer's a really bad dude. And I'm not saying that because of my opinion. I'm a reporter. And then the minute the camera's off, you say, we're going to resist Andrew Scheer. And then you reach into your own pocket and take your own money. Because that's what union dues to Unifor is. It's not government money. It's journalists, thousands of journalists in Canada, reach into their own wallet, take out money, give it to Jerry Diaz of Unifor to attack Andrew Scheer. Shouldn't we have a little disclaimer on every newscast by Global, the Toronto Star, Globe and Mail, etc., saying this reporter is a member of a lobby group, a pressure group. It'll be a registered third-party group. It's like a super PAC. Shouldn't we have to have a little disclosure, like an asterisk, like a little disclosure of conflict of interest? Don't you think we should? It's tough to argue against that, isn't it? How can a reporter campaign with his own money against Andrew Scheer and then pretend to be a neutral reporter? I'm not saying it should be illegal. I think reporters should be as opinionated as they want. Free country, whatever. But just don't lie to me and pretend that you're neutral when you're paying with your... And so this is not even a corporate decision. I mean, of course CTV, and of course CBC, and of course the Globe and Mail, of course the Toronto Star are pro-liberal. I mean, that's taken for granted. But this is the personal decision of individual reporters. This is the grassroots membership-based reporters union. So this isn't some boss man. This isn't, some corporate tycoon taking a private phone call from Trudeau and saying, all right, we'll endorse you. These are hundreds of individual private journalists saying, yeah, I'm up for funding the resistance. Sorry, that's a bad look. Okay, let's take questions. So we're going to take questions today. We're going to take questions. We're going to take comments. Let's go back a bit here. What do you think about the Brexit deal? Well, look, I haven't read the exact deal. I saw Lord Rees-Mogg. Can we get, I don't think he's a Lord. Can we get Rees-Mogg in Parliament the other day? It was a quick clip. He tweeted it himself, I think. So did Paul Joseph Watson, I think, where he just says to Theresa May, you said this will happen. Article 187 of the deal says that. You said this, the deal says that. Can we get that clip from Rees-Mogg? So yeah, I hope that Theresa May is deposed, and I hope that someone like Boris Johnson or Rees-Mogg gets in. I just don't know the latest. Like they're literally, for all I know, in the last 2 hours, Theresa May has resigned. Here, let's take a look. Here's Rees-Mogg. Take a look.
My right honourable friend, and she is unquestionably honourable, said that we would leave the customs union. Annex 2 says otherwise. My right honourable friend said that she would maintain the integrity of the United Kingdom. The whole protocol says otherwise. My right honourable friend said that we would be out of the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice. Article 174 says otherwise. As what my right honourable friend says and what my right honourable friend does no longer match, should I not write to my right honourable friend, the member for Altrincham and Sale West?
I like that fancy style. They got a little bit of dignity in their parliament still. That's Jacob Rees-Mogg. He is a Tory, a Eurosceptic. They say he's a contender for leadership. And when he says my right honourable friend, I'm sure he's referring to the Prime Minister. I like that style. Okay, let's take some more questions. There's a lot of comments there that I don't know what they're referring to. It's part of a conversational thread. Okay, here we go. Canuckster, why can't Trudeau be charged for funding terrorism with his financial aid to UNRWA? And that stands for the United Nations Relief Works Agency. It's the special UN agency just for Palestinians, and they spend money in the Gaza Strip on Hamas-run hate schools. That's what they are. They indoctrinate kids in the Gaza Strip to hate Israel. They normalize terrorism. They are obviously anti-Semitic. Earlier this year, Donald Trump cut off U.S. funding to these hate schools, not just for reasons of promotion of terrorism, but also for corruption and theft. It's the Palestinian Authority. So Justin Trudeau stepped in to replace some of that money with a $50 million bonus check. A windfall. It's like a monopoly. Bank error in your favor, collect $100. Except this was, moral error by Trudeau in your favor, collect $50 million. Justin Trudeau gave $50 million to the Hamas-run hate schools in Gaza after Donald Trump tried to defund them. Trudeau's all in with the terrorists. Ricky Boys 100, should Ezra wear a tie? Yeah, I think I probably should. I wear one sometimes. Although, in some ways, like Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks, I'm a fat guy who doesn't wear ties. There's some similarities. Clayton Jones has an interesting tweet. He says, Texans have not elected a Democrat to statewide office in 26 years. Texas is a republic. We deport illegal alien invaders, and the ideology of Islam is not welcome. All right, but can I ask you a question? How close was it? I'm going to Google that answer myself. Beto O'Rourke. I don't even want to call him that fake nickname. It's what was the results there? I'm going to Google it because I don't want to guess. Can you put up the New York Times results page? I've got it right here. And the map is important too. 51%, not even, 50.9% for Ted Cruz, and 48, yeah, that's the one. So what I would say to Clayton Jones is, keep this up there for a second, 8.25 million votes. Do you see that? And the margin was 200,000 votes. So it's within the margin of illegals, it's within the margin of lawyers. 2%, 2.6% difference. Don't tell me that Texas is a red state. That's a purple state. And I want to point out, as you can see the county by county maps, where is it Democrat? It's Democrat in the big cities. But it's Democrat all along the border with Mexico. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why Democrats love illegal migrants, because they vote Democrat. And let me ask you, what do you think the trend here is? What do you think this will be now? As you know, the U.S. senators are elected for 6-year terms. So let's go out 6 years. The year 2024, I'm sure Ted Cruz will run again. Do you really think Republicans will hold 50.9% in the year 2024? Demographic trends? Do you really think these migrant caravans, can we get some B-roll of the migrant caravan arriving at the U.S. border and the men just jumping right across? Yeah, exactly. Perfect. My point is, Donald Trump talked tough about that migrant caravan, didn't he? He said he was sending 3,000, 5,000, 7,000 soldiers to the border, didn't he? Whatever the answer is. And then they arrived at the border and no one was there to stop them and they just jumped over? We're getting the videos. You can see my friends are Googling that right now. Yeah. Was this time or was this last time? This is a couple days ago. Migrants arrive at U.S. border, expected to seek asylum. So this was April, right? This was the last time? Yeah, so remember, this wasn't the first migrant caravan. I want to prove that they were, you maybe find it on Twitter. I don't know if there's B-roll, but I know there's images on Twitter. Yeah, I think what we were just looking at there was the last time. But Donald Trump, for all his tough talk, oh, I'm sending the army. Oh, I'm sending the army. Oh, I'm going to get tough. Remember, can you call up those Trump tweets where he said, oh, if Mexico and Honduras and Guatemala and El Salvador or whatever, if they send these migrants to us, we're going to crack down on them so hard. We're going to cut off their foreign aid. Roar, I'm roaring like a noisy lion. And did he, by the way, cut off that foreign aid? Not that I know of. You tell me if I'm wrong. I'm sending the army. Rawr, growl. I'm a growly lion. Were they even there? No, they were not. So yeah. Here's a tweet from Donald Trump. In addition to stopping all payments to these countries, which seem to have almost no control over their population, I must, in the strongest of terms, ask Mexico to stop this onslaught. And if unable to do so, I will call up the U.S. military, and this is so important, I'm going to put it in capital letters, close our southern border. Okay, when's that going to happen, boss? Because you tweeted that 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now, almost a month ago. When's that going to happen? Yeah, I don't get, here's the video. I hear in my ear we have the new video. So this is when they arrived. Yeah, so this is right now. This is right now. They're climbing. So I see police, this is from the Mexico side, right? Obviously. And there they are. They're climbing the border fence. I see a Policía Municipal on the Tijuana side. So I see the cops on the Mexican side. Where's the army? Is it that? I don't think that's the army there. That looks like some dudes on horseback and some dune buggies. I see the migrants climbing the fence there. Can you call up B-roll of me in Israel at their border fence? I want to explain to you about fences. Some people saw that image I just showed and said, well, look, it doesn't work. People can climb a fence. Even if you build the fence twice as high, well, they can climb that too. Build it 100 feet high, well, they could climb that too. You can climb almost anything. With a ladder, with a drone maybe, I don't know. A fence will never stop someone if it's just a piece of metal without people there. But when I was in Israel in June, July, I toured their fence. And in some parts it's a fence, some parts it's a wall. It's mainly a fence for 90+% of the duration. And it's got barbed wire and it's got stuff like that, but its main purpose is not to stop. It's to detect and delay a fence crosser for a Jeep with the Israeli military to speed right over and see what's up. So the Israeli fence that has cut down terrorist attacks from Arab towns, because until they built this fence, in an Arab town would just put on an explosive vest and literally walk 1 mile to the neighboring Jewish town and blow himself up. Just walk. Maybe drive, but they were so close they could walk. So this fence was put between the Arab towns and the Jewish towns. And just Google, Ezra Israel fence or whatever. I want to show it. And yeah, if you literally type in Ezra Israel fence, it'll come up. It's not a daunting fence in Israel. It's lots of sensors. It's high enough and impeding, it's a big enough impediment that it'll take you 3 minutes to get through it. In the urban centers where you don't have, and it's wide. So there's a road, there's a sensor, there's another road, there's a bit of a wall, and there's a road. So it's really a mobile corridor for police. How's it coming, guys? And police, there's outposts and people boot on over. So if what we saw in Tijuana there, the border between Mexico and San Diego, happened in Israel, all these people touching the fence, the electronic sensors would be going ping, 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 and the police force would immediately go there, loudspeakers, get down off the wall or be arrested. So it would stimulate a response from the state. Do you want me to send you the URL of the video? Because I want to show what the actual fence looks like. All right, we've got it. So this is an official crossing in the border town. So that's Danny Theresa. He is the commander who built the fence. Why don't we go sound up? Why don't you put the sound up?
Wait. How has it affected regular life, commerce? Can people on the Bethlehem side still come to Israel and vice versa?
Yes, they have, but they can do it only through checkpoints and after a security check.
Let's talk a little bit about Bethlehem. We can see a few churches. I see a golden dome there. That's a church, right?
That's St. Nicholas Church, very famous one in Bet Jala.
Bet Jala. And can you point to, is that on the highest point there, is that Bethlehem on the highest point of that hill?
On the top of the mountain, you can see the column there of Maria. Behind it, it's the Nativity Church.
So the geography is extremely small. I mean, we're here in Jerusalem. Bethlehem is really, if this was in North America, it would be called a neighborhood of Jerusalem. Bethlehem really isn't even separate.
That's right. That we don't have any space here between Bethlehem and Jerusalem. Therefore, we had to build something on the ground to prevent these terrorists from coming to Israel.
How are Christians treated in Bethlehem? I heard you say earlier today that the Christian population of Bethlehem is, did you say it's down to 12%? Is that the number?
Yes. Today, most of the Christians ran away abroad from Bet Jala and Bethlehem after 1995, after the interim agreement between Israel and the PLO. When we let this area to the Palestinian Authority, most of the Christians ran away abroad from the Muslims because they want to have better life in the world and not living here under the Muslims.
What was the Christian population before 1995?
I don't know really the numbers, but it was about 70% of Bethlehem, and today only 12%.
So Bethlehem was emptied of Christians by the PLO in...
About the demographics of the Christians being driven out of Bethlehem. I don't know if you could see, though, there were some parts in the urban centers where the fence is actually a very tall wall. But for most of it, it's just a series of fences. I don't think we showed the best clip there, but you got a bit of a feeling for it. All right, let's go back to the questions here. What is your opinion on Spruce Hill Resort's Chinese immigrant boss who was ordered by the BC Human Rights Tribunal to pay $173,000 to all the white employees he fired? That's a great story, and I alluded to it on the show the other day. Can we call up a news story on that? If you just type in those keywords, Spruce Hill. It was a spa. And it was bought by a Chinese owner who sacked all the indigenous Canadian staff, saying, I don't like white workers because they insist on labor code stuff. They insist on, taking holidays and not working overtime. So it wasn't just that he didn't like white people. I mean, that would be racist. Yeah, BC Resort discriminated against white employees based on race. Tribunal Chair Deanna Yurkovich wrote that owner Chen had described Chinese workers as better and cheaper than white workers, and that they do not need to be paid for holidays or overtime. And look at it, actually looks like a nice little spa. Scroll down. I went to their TripAdvisor page. And it actually looks like a nice place, just an ad there. Scroll down further. Is there any more in the story? Is there any more pictures? No. I went to their TripAdvisor page, and I went to it looks like a really nice place. But do you see what he's saying? He's not actually saying, I hate white people. He's saying white people insist on getting paid for overtime, taking vacation. So he's saying, I want to bring communist China, labor standards with me to British Columbia because I don't like paying Canadian prices for labor. I mean, holy cow. So he was fined $173,000. But don't you think there's a bit of a labor code violation there? Now, that is not the only time that has happened. We see other Chinese companies, including those in the mining sector, and other companies say, well, we want to be able to bring in Chinese workers from China to work in Canada on a Canadian project, but it's a Chinese company and Chinese workers, and we will de facto have Chinese labor laws here. And don't you Canadians get any big ideas about working for us, because we're going to pay you, $5 a day or whatever. I don't know what it is. I mean, that is absolutely coming to Canada. Now, this guy was just stupid enough to say it publicly, and he was in a retail business like a spa. Just crazy, crazy, crazy. But that is not unique. In fact, it happens on a larger scale with industrial concerns too, and I think we're going to see a lot more of it. I think I missed a super chat. Did I miss one, you guys? I probably did. Well, here's an interesting one. Breathing Sunshine. Ezra, have you looked into social credit scores like they have in China coming to Canada? Is that what liberals want all our personal and financial data for? Maybe do a freedom of information request. That is such an interesting point. I saw a video on Twitter, and I'm going to search for it because it was on a train in China, a bullet train. I've been on those amazing bullet trains in China. They're quite something. And there's a warning to be well behaved. And in the announcement, it says if you are not well behaved, this will go on your social credit. I'm just looking for this right now. Oh yeah, here we go. I'm gonna, some copyright claims are taken down. Can you guys look for it? Type social credit, China, train, and or bullet train. You'll find it quickly. Let me explain to my viewers what it is. In Canada, there's a political party called Social Credit. It was popular about 80 years ago. It was sort of goofy economics, and it was, well, we should all be able to get financial credit with the government just for social reasons. So that instead of the banks issuing credit, the government will issue credit, and will sort of set up a new kind of currency. Like, it was sort of a funny money idea, and it was actually ruled financially. The financial aspects were ruled unconstitutional by the Canadian Supreme Court about 80 years ago. So when we hear the word social credit in Canada, we think of the political party by that name. But China has reintroduced social credit with a more literal phrase, as in, you have a credit rating with the bank, that's your financial credit. Your social credit, according to China, is, are you a good person socially? Are you compliant? Are you submissive? Are you law-abiding? Are you polite? Or are you antisocial? Are you badly behaved? Now, I mean, there's certain aspects of this that I suppose are good. If someone's noisy and drunk and a vandal and mischievous, and if they don't conduct themselves well, I suppose it's a good thing to nudge them in the direction of good behavior. Now, we do that organically in the world. If someone is being, thank you, I'll call for the clip in a second. If someone's being poorly behaved, we just say, hey, knock it off. Or, hey, you stop that or I'll call your mother, if we actually knew any of our neighbors anymore. Or, hey, stop that or I'll call the police. But this social credit scheme in China, it connects your cell phone, your banking information, and your Google searches. So everything you do, say, see, search, it's all on your file. And let me show you, we've got it now. Look at this video taken from one of these bullet trains. It's an amazing thing to be on the bullet train, but listen to how terrifying it is. Social credit, take a look.
Dear passengers, people who travel without tickets or behave disorderly or smoke in public areas will be punished according to regulations, and the behavior will be recorded in the individual credit information system. To avoid any negative record of personal credit, please follow the relevant regulations and help with the orders on the train and at the station.
Yeah, so that's an announcement. I assume that's legit. I mean, for all I know, that was just, someone added that soundtrack to an image of those bullet trains. But I have heard of this social credit system even before this video. That purports to be a bullet train speeding through China, and it does look like the bullet train, and those go so wicked fast. It's unbelievable. They have a speedometer on them. That thing gets up to 300, almost 400 clicks so fast, it's unreal. But along with that amazing technology comes terrifying technology. You heard the announcement. You've got to be helpful. If you're not helpful, it's going to go on your personal credit system, not financial credit. It's not like, oh, you failed to make an car payment, so you're in trouble. It's not what they're talking about. If you don't follow the rules, that'll go on your, what used to be called a police file. But a police file, well, I mean, how many times do you really interact with a policeman in your life? You have to physically bump into a policeman. They have to take the time to deal with you. But what if you have a full-time permanent living database about yourself that's tapped into your Google searches, tapped into your phone, tapped into your bank, tapped into the panopticon of countless closed-circuit TV? And who do you think is developing that? I'm sure there are very bright Chinese engineers, secret policemen, of course. But do you doubt that Western tech companies are completely engaged with this product and this project? Not only because they want access to the massive Chinese market. And your Facebook, Google, YouTube, Twitter, imagine having your company have access to the richest database ever compiled about human beings in the world. Not just everything they search, but everything they say and do and buy, and it's all connected. You would know, I mean, I've always said this. I said, Mark Zuckerberg actually knows more about you than you know about yourself, because you forget what you said or did or looked at 2 years ago. Do you really remember everything you've ever looked at online? Of course not. Do you really remember every email you said, everything you've liked, every picture you... Of course not. So you know you, but you forget things and you simply can't recall everything, and things fade in time and you misremember. Facebook doesn't misremember, it doesn't forget, it has everything. And imagine plugging that into your banking info, your hospital info, your pharmacy info, your bar tab, your Visa. What did you buy? Oh, I see you bought 5 drinks last night, eh? That's interesting. That goes on your social credit. Oh, I see you're at the door. You bought this penicillin. Or did you get some STD or something? Oh, I see your, you know those loyalty programs where you swipe a card at the drugstore. Oh, I see you're buying a pregnancy kit or your preggers or whatever. Like, imagine all the things that you tap a card. You got a loyalty card, you got a credit card, you got a bank card. That's what Justin Trudeau, hey, speaking of which, how far away is that from what Justin Trudeau demanded in Canada? He wanted to seize without a subpoena or a warrant every single real-time banking transaction of 500,000 Canadians. Yeah, so not too far away. Okay, I see I've missed some super chats. Fraser McBurney, will the Rebel be able to do an expose on the halal racket? Yeah, sure. I mean, I've followed a little bit of that story from Australia. Kirli, I forget her last name, Kirli is the first name of the lady, who has fought that because it's, of course, an enormous franchise fee. To call your food halal, you have to pay a certain kind of a rent to the halal certification company, and how they spend that money is quite amazing. And Kirli, I think Smith is her last name, has led that fight down under. Can you believe it's 12:48? And I was just rambling, and 48 minutes have gone by. There's a super chat that I missed. I'm going to check my email, make sure I get it. Outdaft UK, plan for the future, build the wall round Cali. Yeah, well, fair enough, but didn't I just show you Texas? I'd have to check my map, but I think that the blue counties of Texas, I think they abut Mexico. And then you got Florida, and even Georgia was not quite too close for comfort. And you got Arizona, and of course the economic refugees from California. I don't mean refugee in the real way, but people say, I can't make a go of in California. Too much crime, too much traffic, too much taxes, crazy politics. I'm going to move to Oregon. I'm going to move to Washington State. I'm going to move to Nevada. So they bring their crazy ideas. I just hear in my ear we have a video. Yeah, so this is this new? Is this like today? Okay. This is from November 13th. So you can see that. You can see those. those. So this is the fence here. This is the Epoch Times. Great people. So they're on the Tijuana side, and they're climbing up, and just not an authority in sight. Just not. Maybe those are. Maybe those dune buggies and horses are police. Actually, come to think of it, that shot made them look like they were police on horseback and dune buggies. Yeah, now that I see them, those do look like authorities, don't they? Horseback and dune buggies. But they're just standing there. Why are they not doing anything? So again, this video obviously taken from the Mexican side, because of course the coast would be on the west there. Okay, we got a helicopter. I'm going to presume that that's some sort of authority. Here's someone holding court on the Mexican side. A couple of guys on. Okay, so there's 3 border patrol of some sort, but nothing. See, my point about the Israel fence, and I don't think I properly showed it to you, is when that fence is touched, it triggers a reaction, and the authorities come immediately and they interdict the crossers. I don't think that's happening here at the border for all of Trump's tough talk. Go ahead, put the picture of the border fence. So that's the wall there. So do you see the 30-foot high wall? That's the wall where it is in a dense urban area, so you don't have room on either side. But if you can find a picture of the fence, and you almost can't even really see it because it's just like a chain link fence with a road in the middle. Kilgore Trout, Buck99 says, who would you like to be reconciled to? Well, that's an interesting question, a personal question. Well, a lot of people, I suppose. I mean, in life, there's, I suppose, personal friends you've had a falling out with over the years. I mean, I'm 46, I'm not young. You know that old joke, it's not even a joke, it's not funny, it's friends come and go, but enemies accumulate. In politics, that's the case, and we're a pretty political outfit. I do try and reconcile with people. Sometimes there's issues in the way that you can't. I mean, I have a lot of friends in the Federal Conservative Party of Canada, but they've been told by Andrew Scheer not to interact with me anymore. Now, I still do talk to them and by phone and Twitter, whatever, but they say they can't publicly interact with me. And I understand why, because they have a party leader who says, well, that's against the rules of the team. Yeah, okay, there it is. There's the fence. So do you see what I mean? You've got a fence, a bunch of sensors on the detectors, like it's an electrified fence, but it doesn't zap you. It detects you. Motion sensors, touch sensors. That's on the right. Then you have a path, and you can see there's a little tractor, and it's like on a golf course. Hold that up there for a bit. That's exactly the shot. So it's like on a golf course. It's raked to see footprints or any evidence of anyone crossing over it. That little white car is just a little patrol car. That is not a public road. That is just a military access road. So there is no one driving on this. So that is the border between the Palestinian side on the top and the Israeli side on the bottom left, or the Jewish side on the bottom left. That is for 90+% of the length of it. That is the wall. The only 30-foot high concrete structure you see is in an urban area where you wouldn't be able to take 50 feet out of it. So if you're a Palestinian terrorist walking from those fields on the top right to the Israeli section, the Jewish section on the bottom left, you can't walk over. You could cut through that fence, yeah. You could climb over the fence, maybe. They got barbed wire there. You could use a ladder to get over it, sure. I suppose theoretically you could even try and ram through it in a vehicle, yeah. But you see my point, it would delay you a minute or two, but most importantly, it would detect you. And so a response would come, and it wouldn't be just a little car like that, or the tractor raking the gravel. It would be a military vehicle to check out what the threat is. That is and you can see this is a video I made called Israel's Security Wall, a Model for America. That's the model. So having a 20-foot high steel fence that those Mexican youth can climb, how does that help anything? They could climb a mountain. It's not the physical barrier, it's the system. When you touch the fence, what happens? When you breach the fence, what happens? When you go over the fence, it's the what happens part that America needs to figure out, and I don't think it has quite yet. Okay, let me catch up on the Super Chats. Chaz1422, Don Lemon accused Republicans of racism, used photo of elected representatives showing mostly white males, yet Jimmy Tillman or John James weren't elected because most African Americans won't vote Republican, not even for qualified African Americans. I know exactly what you're talking about. If it is racist of Republican voters not to vote for a black Democrat, how is it then not racist for Democrat voters not to vote for a black Republican? And there were some very qualified black Republicans, especially in Michigan. I was really excited about the long shot of a Republican winning there. I mean, Trump did carry Michigan as president. So yeah, you're exactly right, Chaz. This is a very good point. There's another super chat. Let me catch up to it here. Tame Thing 1, would tossing clawing cats at Trudeau be wrong? Oh, that's funny. Okay, let's check the clock. It's 12:56. Let me just go through a few quick snappers. If you've got a super chat, put it up and I'll go to it. Today was a bit of a ramble, but we did show you a few interesting things, I think. Okay, so many of these are just threads in a conversation. Ezra, you are amazing. I wish so much you had your own national TV channel. Well, you're nice to say that. I do have my own channel. It's called TheRebel.media. You're watching it right now, 1.1 million subscribers. As you can see, I think the notifications are throttled on it, but we do have our own channel. If by that you mean a terrestrial channel on cable TV, like we had at the Sun News Network, that will never happen. It will never happen for regulatory reasons. It'll never happen for cost reasons, cost too much money. It'll never happen for corporate reasons. No, there would be some part of that corporate infrastructure that would balk at having anything other than vanilla political commentary. Of course, I came from the Sun News Network, which for 3 or 4 years tried valiantly. Our owner, a Quebec billionaire called Pierre-Carl Pelado, dumped $50 million into the Sun News Network. He couldn't even get the regulatory approvals he needed. So Pierre-Carl Pelado spent $50 million trying to get a center-right TV station going in Canada and failed because he was undermined by politics and bureaucrats. What are the chances of me, 1,000-aire, or maybe 100-aire, giving it a shot? The answer is 0. So that's okay, though, because the internet is better in a number of ways. An important one being it's global, it's democratic, it's interactive, and it's cheaper, I think, than the kind of technological infrastructure needed to be on TV. I think there's one more super chat. I'm going to check it if it's in my email here, because I think I missed it. Here we go. The one from Kilgore Trout, I think I did read that already. Who would you be reconciled to? I tried to answer. I don't think I gave a good answer. I guess I was talking about my conservative friends who talk to me privately, but say they can't talk to me publicly because Andrew Scheer will be mad. I think that's sort of pitiful. You know, the other day, can we get B-roll of Maxime Bernier at our Rebel Live event? You know, last Saturday we had a great event in Calgary. We had almost 600 people come to a live convention we had called The Rebel Live. And we had a dozen speakers, including this guy, Maxime Bernier, who used to be a conservative cabinet minister, used to be a critic under Andrew Scheer, was sacked from shadow cabinet, and then broke away to start his own party. And it's called the People's Party of Canada, and I have to tell you, I'm skeptical of it. I think he should have stayed in the Conservatives, bided his time, and if and when Andrew Scheer fails, he would have been the heir apparent. But he didn't do that for his reasons, and so now he's got his own party. And we invited him and Andrew Scheer to address our crowd. And like I said, we had almost 600 people in Calgary. I would call them the grass tops of the movement, not just the grassroots. These are the activists, the leaders, the riding directors and whatnot. And Maxime Bernier made a pretty good case for himself. I don't know if he won everybody over, but he answered a lot of criticisms. But most importantly, he showed he was willing to respect people by making the case to them and taking questions. He took questions for a little while afterwards. Andrew Scheer was given the same invitation, but declined because he doesn't like me or whatever. But in so doing, he disrespected the almost 600 people in the room, and whatever doubts they had about him only grew. I think he would have been well received, by the way. If Andrew Scheer would have attended, people would have listened to him carefully and treated him at face value. I think there's a pettiness. And so, I mean, I was never really friends with Andrew Scheer. I was a friendly acquaintance with him. And I suppose, in answer to your question, I mean, I suppose I could be reconciled with him, but I don't feel that there's, you know, his objection to me is just that I am me. And that's fine. I think that speaks to his character as much as it speaks to mine. What bugs me, though, is he has told his MPs and senators they're not allowed to talk to me, and that feels very high schoolish. It's not going to stop us from doing our job. I mean, we comment on the news whether or not we can interview a senator and MP is almost irrelevant. It just shows a pettiness, and it really hit home with me on Saturday when Maxime Bernier was really digging up what should have been Andrew Scheer's backyard. That should have been Andrew Scheer's turf. But he, for petty reasons, wouldn't be there. I mean, listen, it was fine by me. We sold the room out. There was the standing room only. In some sense, it didn't matter to me who was speaking, but I know it mattered to the people in the room. And I think Maxime Bernier did himself a great favor by showing up. All right, well, there you go. It's 1:01. I've gone on a little bit too long. Thanks for joining. I'll be back next week with another Super Chat on Friday. And for those of you who want to join in, every day at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I have a paywalled show called The Ezra Levant Show. We go for an hour, interview a guest at some length, and if you're a subscriber, we'll see you tonight. If not, on behalf of all of us here at Rebel World Headquarters to you at home, goodbye, and keep fighting for freedom.